Welcome to this live stream of the USA Biz Party leading up to our Telesummit. I can't believe it. It's a week from today. Oh, I'm so excited, so excited. So I want to thank you for joining us, whether you are live or you're on the replay. So if you're with us live right now, go ahead, put in the chat and say here and let us know your name, where you're from. If you're on the replay, put an R and your name and where you're from, and we'll respond at that time. Thank you so much again. I am super excited to have with me today our gold sponsor, Optessa, represented by John Buglino, and Sue Canfield. And Sue, I love Sue. I've worked with Sue. She works particularly to help people build their social media presence when they're launching nonfiction books. So Sue, welcome to the live stream.
Thank you for having me, Anna. I'm excited to be here today with you.
Yes, and I have availed of your services. So that's another conversation for another day, right?
Yes, I've enjoyed working with you.
Oh, wonderful. And I likewise. And John Buglino represents Optessa, and we're super excited because Optessa is the gold sponsor for this event. So John, tell us a little bit about your role at Optessa, because you've taken Optessa basically from obscurity into people actually like you, tweet your posts. So.
No, awesome. Really appreciate that, Anna, and good to be here. And hey, Sue.
Hey, John.
So I joined Optessa earlier in this year, February 2020, and assumed the role as the director of marketing, and just been on a path to kind of unleash the brand, make sure everyone knows who Optessa is, what we're doing, why we're doing it, and who we're doing it for. And it's just been an unbelievable year for me and the company, landing new logos, extensions with existing customers. So it's been phenomenal. And this upcoming Telesummit was just perfect for us as I've been able to grow the community and grow our online community more specifically. So this was just an awesome win-win for everyone involved.
Oh yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. And I want to say hello to Hyatt. I hope I said that right, Hyatt. Hyatt's joining us from Houston. So thank you for being with us. So today we're going to be talking about, everybody wants to talk about the positive. We all want to be positive, and there's certainly a lot of value in that. But sometimes we actually have to look at the negative side, what we're missing out on when we don't engage in community. So my first question, my first talking point today is, what are some of the challenges of being isolated? What are some of the challenges of being isolated? So who'd like to jump in first?
Go for it.
I'll be happy to jump in there. I know when my husband and I first started working for ourselves full-time 15 plus years ago, there was that whole, how are we going to do this? Because we're on our own now, not in an office with support. And so, now the whole world is facing that basically. How do we work from home? This feeling of isolation. We don't have the person at the water cooler, so to speak, to talk to. It can be a real challenge to feel like you have no one to really bounce ideas off of right there, and to see, the facial expressions, to get that immediate response, feedback on your ideas, or just camaraderie that we're all used to. It's definitely been something different, even though we have been working from home for so many years. This has still been a challenge in a lot of other ways, just making that change and that adjustment. For us, probably a little bit easier than for a lot of people that had to actually leave an office and come home to work, but still different, because everyone around us is having to face it now. And so you have to deal with the dynamics that creates among everybody.
Absolutely. And I love how you brought in that you've had that experience, but I think, like you said, that it's probably more pronounced than ever because we are all now in that boat. I mean, if you're on LinkedIn very much, LinkedIn is always posting an article about the work from home situation. And John, I know that that's been something that's been quite an interesting challenge from your end, because you have little kids at home that not only are you dealing with work, but you're trying to juggle, being the good dad, getting your work done. and you know, all of that good stuff. So what do you see as challenges of being isolated, being away from community?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I mean, everyone's wearing multiple hats in their professional lives, but you know, as soon as everyone was ordered to kind of work from home or work from anywhere, it was kind of, you were thrust into work and personal life just mashed together, whether you liked it or not. And you know, I've been, you know, having two young boys and doing the schooling, the teaching, and things like that. It's been a little bit of a challenge, but you know, we've been doing this for a number of months now, so we're getting the hang of it, and doing pretty well. I also think, you know, when I joined Optessa in February, it was about 4 weeks at the company before we did the work from home, you know, the stay-at-home orders. So to be thrust into a new role is enough, but then to have to not have that camaraderie that Sue mentioned, like having that water cooler, having that instant feedback or rapid feedback, you know, we started relying on a lot of tools that people didn't know how to utilize, things like Slack or Microsoft Teams, or even just utilizing social media to connect with each other. So it just introduced a whole host of challenges, but at least everyone just kind of came together, communicated. You know, we got on the phone more than we usually would, instead of, you know, walking to each other's offices. So it's been challenging, but I think at the same time, it's also been rewarding as well.
Yeah, and I think too with the changes, so you spoke specifically about the changes that a lot of us have been thrust into. I know when a lot of change is put on me quite suddenly, it can almost feel like I've lost my moorings. I almost feel like I've lost my routine. I don't know what my next steps are. And I'll be honest with you, I hate that feeling. I absolutely hate that feeling. Why don't we talk a little bit about that? Because I know a lot of people are still dealing with it, even though we've been through this. And of course, now we're headed into the holidays. So the holiday expectations come in. Suddenly, there's just a whole host of things that we're doing. And yes, do drop your comments in the chat. We would love to hear from you if you're on live with us or if you're on the replay.
I'd like to say a few words, if I may, about what you just mentioned, Anna. Again, going back to, you know, that my husband and I chose this way of life. We actually, you know, chose to be isolated, if you will, because we were working for ourselves from home. And we're kind of homebodies as it is. We actually homeschooled our daughter. She just graduated from high school. So, you know, this was kind of, for us, a choice and something we enjoyed doing. Not to say that we were total hermits, never. We were always making sure that we, you know, had ways to be social with our friends, and especially for our daughter growing up. But again, it was our choice. Whereas most of the people facing this situation worldwide now, it wasn't a choice, it was thrust upon them. And so something that I think has been helpful for some that I've talked to is for them to change their mindset and to realize that this is the way things are going to be for a while. So instead of, you know, missing the old days and what if it was this way, and well, when it's that way, instead think, this is the way it is. What can I do in my life now to make it work for however long it takes? And John, kudos to you for having two young boys doing this. You know, again, we did raise our daughter from the time she was born through, she's now 16. We only had the one at home. The other 6 were already grown. So it was easier only having the one. But still, knowing that we put into place, you know, expectations for the family. How are we managing this now? Working from home, also homeschooling. And again, this was 15 years ago, our choice, but some of these things could apply now for families that are trying to make it work, you know, and not to beat yourself up if things don't go exactly the way you planned. And if you have to put little ones to bed and then get your work done and you're able to do that, you know, maybe that's what happens. I know years and years ago with my husband's first, his older children that he had from his first marriage, when they were little, a lot of times that's what he would do, is he'd wait till they went to bed. And being a web designer, he didn't have to, you know, interact with people real time necessarily, but they'd be in bed, and from 3 to 6 in the morning is when he got his best work done. So it's just a matter of, you know, changing our attitude a little bit, making adjustments in how we do things. And I think for whoever is having to do whatever, if you have a family and you have little ones, that has to be our priority. If our family's not our priority, then I think our whole lives fall apart, including our work. So putting our children first and really paying attention to them, I think will help them and help us feel, better as a family, and then we can be better people in the business world as well.
So true, so true. And I think in those situations, like the ones, like I homeschooled all of our children. I homeschooled before I got into business. And I remember when I got into business, people just looked at me and shook their head. Of course, I had 7, I was homeschooling. So maybe I was a little ambitious there, could be, you never know. But I would have people say, how do you do it? And I thought, I did it. Now, the thing is, I didn't have the connections on social media, and I really didn't have a lot of connections locally of people who worked and taught their kids. So I didn't have the support that's available now, because even in most business circles now, what are some of the things that people are talking about? They're talking about situations like what you faced, John, and what I did face. So I think without that support, it just makes the business we're trying to do harder, and it's harder for us to see success because we don't have people that are saying, yeah, I've been through that, you're going to make it. I think that's one of the most powerful things about community, John.
No, I definitely agree. And it's all, for this year, it's all about like adaptability and finding those new routines, so the other thing that I mentioned in a couple other, networking groups and other individuals in my community is, just because I'm home doesn't mean I'm available. And that's sometimes a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people, because they think, oh, I'm tethered to my desk. Not really, and I'm not tethered there now 9 to 5, or I'm not in the, think about, I'm not in the office. It used to be between 8 and 9, everyone's commuting. And then between 5 and 7, you got people commuting, home. And then you figured everyone's back at it or checking, late at night. Now it's much different. Me personally, I'm up at 5 a.m. and try to get stuff done before the kids and everyone are up by like 7. So I'm working early in the morning, and then between 7 to 9, I'm taking care of breakfast. I'm getting school done. I'm bringing them to school, to and from school, dropping them off, things like that. So it's kind of a weird dynamic, but it's between 5 and 7, I do some work. Between 7 and 9, not really available. And then between those 9 and 5 hours, it could be a mixture of homeschooling, could be a mixture of going to pick the kids up, could be a mixture of there's a phone call or something's happening around the house. So it's just adaptability, and also just communicating. I think it's another piece of it as well, is that people, don't understand, when I'm explaining my situation, those people go, yeah, I have 3 kids, or like you, Annie, like you homeschooled 7. Kudos to you. Put me to shame. I'm doing 2 and doing okay. But I think that's a lot of it, is the communication and just understanding, and not being overly communicating to people if they're not responding to you. Like, be kind and just understand there might be something that's going on, or just give it like another hour, or give it another couple of minutes before you start pestering people for either replies or things like that.
Right. Yeah, that is a key. That is a big key as we're working from home. Now, I do want to take a moment to talk about the Telesummit itself. And of course, we have one of our speakers, Sue. Awesome. It's really Sue Canfield, but Sue, awesome. Sue, you're going to be talking about how we can engage in community, which I think falls right in line with what we're talking about here, because if we're really wanting to break down this isolation, we also have to be in a two-way conversation with people. And so a couple of the points you'll be talking about is, what are some keys to success? What is something else that you'll be sharing with the folks on the Telesummit?
Sure. Well, my expertise is in social media. So we'll touch base a little bit on how to use social media in general to really engage with the community, Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. But I'm going to delve just a little bit more into LinkedIn because that's become my favorite, if you will, to really engage with people. And there's some great ways to do that there. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit more than the other social media platforms.
Oh, I think that'll be powerful. And oh, by the way, we do have promotional tickets. They are free tickets. I know that John and Sue have some available. So if you are on the replay or if you're with us live and you would like one of those promotional tickets, now let me tell you what goes with the promotional ticket. You're going to have access to the entire, yes, free tickets. Talking to the guy that's running this behind the
Yes, free.
Free, yeah, who can pass up free, right? So you'll get access to the entire event. You are going to be able to participate in the moderated sessions. So for example, Sue is gonna, after she's done talking, she's gonna actually be in a session where you can ask her anything.
Ask me anything.
Ask her anything. Yeah, and put I'm in the chat for a chance to win one of those tickets. And if you put, if you want Sue's ticket, you know, as the more attractive, don't take this wrong. I get these things all mixed up. But then put SC. Or if you'd rather have one of John's, you know, you admire him for homeschooling 2 kids, put JB. Or if you just put I'm in, we'll make sure that you get a free ticket. That's just the way this goes. So, and if you're thinking, well, I don't know that I'm going to be able to sit through the 4 hours, the good news is your ticket's also going to give you access to our USABizParty membership website, which will have all the recordings from the events plus so much more. So a free ticket, you get all of that. Please, please, please put I'm in the chat. We would love to hear from you. So the next thing we'd like to talk about is that, okay, we've talked about the challenges of not being in a community, of the things that we've had to face, particularly this year, that have been thrown at us because of one little virus. But let's talk about the power of belonging to a community. And John, let's start with you this time.
Yeah, I think one of the first things when I joined Optessa was I looked at their social media accounts and noticed that one, they didn't have social media interaction or even accounts across all the profiles. And the ones that they did have, there wasn't really a strong community or any community really. And it kind of speaks volumes, even, you know, take pre-COVID, you know, because you need to be working with those in your industry. You need to be looking at industry influencers. You need to be engaging them. You need to be providing content. And the only real way we were doing that before I started with Optessa was through our website and word of mouth, which is pretty good. But in this new digital age, you know, you have to make sure that you are on at least a couple of social media channels. You don't have to be everywhere. You pick your channels and just be consistent and engage and grow and build. And I think without the community, it's more like having a conversation with yourself, you know, and we talk about it all the time with the teams internally here, is we tell ourselves all great stories about how we're doing and what we're doing and how we're doing things for our customers, but we have to get that message out to our community. We have to tell others what we're doing, what problems are we solving, how much money are we saving, how much efficiencies are being gained with utilizing our software. And growing that community, you know, not by hitting them over the head with a sales demo, is engaging them with content, thought leadership pieces, videos, mix of content that just piques their interest. And you never know what problem you hit on that's going to resonate with somebody that reaches out to you to learn more about your company. So I think community is very powerful. I think there's always ways to leverage the community. You can always bounce ideas off the community. You can grow the community fairly quickly if you are consistent with a platform like a LinkedIn, like Sue, you mentioned, it's one of your favorite, mine as well. Also through Twitter, Twitter chats, have made connections with Anna and others as well. That'll be on the Telesummit. So I think community is first and foremost the thing you need to mention or be a part of when you're a brand.
Yeah, and I think social media is such a vital platform. I mean, it's no longer something you do to avoid your work. It's something you have to do now. I mean, let's face it. You know, I've heard people say, well, social media is such a, what do they call it?
Time waster, some call it.
Yeah, time waster, a time hole. And as I started to grow my community through social media, I began to realize that those people have become important. They're like an extension of my business and my family. And I mean, that's really a big reason of how these two are here. They became part of the USABizParty family. And well, John reached out to me because he wanted to sponsor, but I reached out to Sue because I knew she had some great things to share with people. So Sue, what do you see as the power of belonging? And again, in the chat, please share your thoughts. We would love to share those with everybody that's watching this particular broadcast. So Sue?
So I want to address a little bit, I think, the power of belonging when somebody is trying to run their own business, because I think we've talked a little bit about social media already, and we're going to discuss that more in the Telesummit next week. But I think there's a lot of people out there that have their own business and have had one that they've been trying to struggle to keep going during the pandemic. Others have actually started a business because they lost their, brick and mortar store, so to speak. And so there is now a need to build a community there for those entrepreneurs. And a lot of them, like myself, probably like yourself, started out as a solopreneur. So they're all by themselves and they need that sense of community. And there's a real sense of belonging when you create the right type of community. And there's power in that. When your community feels like they belong to something, that they're like on the inside, they're a part of something, that they're really needed, then they are going to be there for you and help you. And then they're going to contribute to the community, whether it be in some motivational way or actual services or spreading the word. And when you show that you value them and what they're doing, that's going to build that sense of belonging even more and that sense of community even more. And if you do have a team, if you're managing a team, if you get to that point where it's not just you anymore, but now you've got, 2, 3, 4 more people on your team, it's encouraging them to do their best. And it's so much easier now to be able to manage that sense of belonging and that community, that team, because there are so many great tools out there now. And as we've already discussed, that communication is so important, but to have that communication, you first have to have the expectations, the right expectations set. And so when you have a good community that feels like they have a sense of belonging, those expectations have been set, there's good communication, it's just a wonderful thing. And I think that more and more people are going to be able to see that in power in work as we move forward, because it's going to happen a lot more on more individual basis, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think that setting the expectations are important, building the expectations as a group. And so things can happen too. I mean, inside community, let's face it, nothing goes smoothly. We can have our ideas of how things go smoothly, but as you build community and relationships, then one of the keys, I believe, is that there's a lot of grace inside of a community that is built on trust and the relationships. And, you were talking about how it feels good to be needed. It feels good to contribute. It feels so good to contribute. And I know from experience with both of you that you're both contributors. But for us, if we are always just worried about ourselves, that isolation can augment that feeling. And then we kind of get sucked into a whirlpool of worry and mistrust. Whereas when we belong to a community and we have the opportunity to contribute to community, that helps to create that helps to create a synergy that is so important for businesses. Plus, we think about how we can help somebody else. So, for example, Tom Reed. Tom is in our community. And this year was particularly rough because he is a person who speaks in person at events. Well, guess what happened? We all know
canceled.
They got canceled. But people in our community started to work together to support him, to help him. And, now he's starting to see some results. So belonging to community, I think, is incredibly important. And that is something that inside the USA Biz Party, you guys have actually spoken in person with me, and I try to make personal connections with every single person in the USA Biz Party. I'd like to get to the point that it would be, well, actually, it's starting to get to the point that I can't reach out to everybody anymore because we're just becoming so, because we're starting to increase our community. But in the incoming Telesummit, we're going to have a real opportunity to meet people in person. So in the sessions, as well as in the networking sessions. So there's going to be space for people in the networking sessions to get to meet other people. And it may not turn out to be the actual client, but you never know who's going to have a connection that has a connection that's going to help you build more business. And I'm super excited about Ramon Ray. Have you guys, well, you know about Ramon Ray because I've been talking about him.
Yeah.
Have you heard of him before I started talking about him?
No, I hadn't.
Well, yeah, he's a Jersey boy. John, that's...
Well, I also know Ramon because he was also part of another Twitter chat that I'm a part of, Ivana Taylor's, the Bizapalooza chat, and he did a sensational event a couple months back. It was a 2-day event, so I knew about Ramon and was thrilled when you made that announcement. So yes, not only is he a Jersey boy, but I knew about him before that.
Well, I'd seen him earlier this year at an in-person event. This was before COVID hit. And I was just impressed how much energy and passion he has. He's going to tell us how he got fired from the UN, which will be, that's a fun story. How many of you want to get fired from the UN? And he's also going to talk about recovery. How do we recover? So I think those are super pertinent topics in this time of transition. Again, if you're watching the replay or you are on with us live, you have an opportunity to get free tickets. Free tickets. Put I'm in the chat, whether you're here live or on the replay. And if you have a preference whose ticket you claim, then
mine.
Vote. My free tickets are just about gone, so I don't have any more to give away. But JB, if you want John's free ticket, or SC if you want Sue's ticket. I think I have to do it this way. The mirror, something like that. Last but not least, we want to talk about how do you build your own community. Now, some of that's going to be, actually a lot of it's going to be covered by some of our other speakers. So Jim, big shout out to Jim Fuse, who is behind the scenes helping us today. Jim's going to be talking about this particular kind of situation we're in right now, live streaming, how to use that to build your community. And then his friend and co-conspirator, co-partner, right, is Chris Stone. And Chris is going to be talking to us about podcasting. But just let's see if we can tease a little bit how people can build their own community on social media or anywhere.
Did you want me to address that since I will be discussing social media?
Sure. I know John is working on building community. So part of my reason for this is because I know John started a Twitter chat. And
great.
Yeah, he did start a Twitter chat, and I try to support whenever I can. I'm usually doing a live stream about that time. But yeah.
Oh, I'd love to hear about that. Let's have John tell us about his Twitter chat.
Okay.
Yeah, so I started the Twitter chat about a month ago. It's called Behind the Brand, and I really wanted it to be a place where individuals and, well, first of all, brands are highlighted. So I started, of course, with Optessa and just put a couple of questions out there that people may be too afraid to ask or might be on people's minds and they just don't know when to ask it, or who to ask it to within the organization. So it was kind of like one of those, the brand would let its guard down and just let people kind of just similar, like ask me anything kind of thing. So looking to re-engage that starting next month in 2021. And that would be every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern with the Behind the Brand hashtag. And just looking to showcase brands that really just want to have people ask them any kind of questions that they want, how they got started, what their value props are, key differentiators, places where they struggle, and places where they succeed. So it's just one of those things to kind of just get brands a little more recognition and have people approach individuals that are working at those companies or the brands themselves that interact across different social channels.
Excellent. And that kind of reminds me of what I feel social media is all about in building community, because you're showcasing, highlighting other people. And I think that's so important. I think so many times people think that they're going to use social media to just put out there, this is what I have, buy this. I work with a lot of nonfiction authors who are doing book marketing, so they want to put out their buy my book messages, which of course we do. But what I try to teach them is to really share something of value, like John said, but even more than that, to showcase other people and their expertise around the same topic. And I do this a lot in my business as far as like this past year, I showcased a lot of different business podcasters. I reached out to various podcasters. It was just a little written interview that I posted on my blog, and then it got posted on all my social media, on all their social media. It helped them to get increased exposure for their podcast. It helped my prospects and clients who were looking for a good podcast to be on. And of course, it gave me something to share on social media. And then this year, I'm switching that up, and I'm going to be showcasing some nonfiction authors and also some book industry experts. So my point is that if we can use social media to share with our community what others within the community are doing, I think that that is one of the best ways to really build a good, solid foundation, a really good community. And people just, we all love it, right? When someone else says, hey, look at them and look at what they're doing. And if we can do that for other people, don't you think that's going to come back to us? Absolutely. So I just think that that's a wonderful thing to do. And I encourage more people to think about that. How can they highlight what other people are doing and not be afraid that, well, if I talk about them, then who's going to hire me? It's going to come.
Oh, for sure. And I think one of the things that people will get a tremendous benefit from is by including, as a sales trainer myself, I know it's extremely tempting in your social media to talk about what you do and the benefits of what you do, but really we're not taking into account how we can contribute. So as I was today on USABizParty, we were talking about engagement. You both were part of that conversation. And in the research I did leading up to the chat, one of the things that was extremely apparent is you have to come into an engagement focused more about your community than you do about yourself. If you're spending all of your time talking about what you do, it's like an ongoing sales pitch, and we all know where that takes us. It usually pushes people away from us. But if we're being inclusive and we're thinking about our community, maybe you don't necessarily have a community, which is, that can happen too. Well, then you want to be thinking about who are the kind of people you want in your community. Start creating content that's attractive to those people. And what happens is you get the people who get attracted to you because you're reaching out to them on their terms. So building community really starts with thinking about the people that you want to attract into your community through social media. I think that John's Behind the Brand is an amazing, and it's going to really go far really fast, because who does not want to share, who doesn't want to, one, know what's going on behind the brand, and two, who's not willing to share that stuff. It's the fun stuff that people want to hear, that want to be part of your community. So kudos to you, John. That's awesome.
Yes.
Well, we are coming to the end of this particular broadcast. Before we do, I'd really like for y'all to share, y'all, that's my text that's coming through. No.
It's okay, I do that too.
Share one nugget, something that you think people really need to know that they will not want to miss out on when it comes to the Telesummit next week.
Okay, I'm going to go since I'm speaking at this Telesummit next week. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I want to reiterate that LinkedIn is a great place to build a community. There is what is called the SSI of LinkedIn, and I'm not going to say any more so that we can a little bit about that, and I'm going to discuss what that means and how we can build that and how that builds community.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, that's one LinkedIn is a platform I want to spend more time on. I've loved Twitter, and I think Twitter and LinkedIn work really, really well together, so I'm very excited about what you have to share. And John?
I won't be speaking, but I'm definitely going to be in the audience. I'm going to be attending the sessions and, dedicating the time to really be a part of it and enjoy the community, make sure that any kind of conversations that come up. I'm also going to be asking questions of all the different speakers. There's a tremendous lineup of speakers at the Telesummit. But I think the one nugget I have in the takeaway is, you have to pick a community and be consistent when you're going to engage with them. Like Anna, you mentioned earlier, like we've been speaking and I've been a part of USABizParty for, this is going to be the 3rd year that we've known each other via Twitter and the Twitter chat. So I think there's a lot that goes with being consistent and joining a community and sticking with it. And I think that's something that'll be reinforced at the upcoming Telesummit, and something that others will gain by joining us at the USABizParty as well.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, we do have some free tickets. So this is the time. This is the place. Put in, I'm in, and you will get a ticket, and we'll get you a free ticket. So thank you so, so very much for joining me. Thank you, John. Thank you, Sue. It's going to be an amazing Telesummit 1 week from today, from 1 to 5 p.m. Eastern time. So if you haven't reserved your spot, do so. The tickets are as low as $10. $10.
What a deal.
That is a real deal, a real deal. We wanted to make it so that the ticket price was not a barrier to people getting the benefit of the Telesummit. So again, thank you guys for joining me. It's been amazing, like it always is.
Thank
and
you.
We'll see you at the Telesummit next week.
Excellent.
See you there.